Aloha Hawaii and welcome to another version of Hawaii Sports Update. I am your host PJ and I'm here with legendary coach Tony Sellitto. He coached at Marinol and he coached at HPU and he's the only head coach to ever bring a national championship to the state of Hawaii. And we'll be getting to Coach Sellitto in just a minute. But first in women's basketball, the women's basketball team took over sole possession first place with a big win over Cal Poly on Saturday night, 79-64. The Rainbows now sit on top of the Rainbow Wahine, now sit on top of the Big West Conference at 7-2. The victory was a 12th straight home victory for the Rainbow Wahine dating back over the last couple of seasons. Now, Ashanale Kuehu had 18 over 22 points in the first half. And of course, there were strong performances again by Ashley Caratiana and Destiny King. The Rainbow Wahine hit the road next week for a pair of Big West games at UC Riverside and at Cal State Fullerton. Now, the men's basketball team continued to alternate wins and losses in the Big West Conference, with their latest loss being a heartbreaker to UC Santa Barbara. Garrett Neville and Aaron Valdez led the way with 16 points. The Bulls dropped to 16-9, 4-5 in the Big West Conference, and they return home for the first time in nearly 3 weeks to take on UC Riverside and also Cal State Fullerton on Valentine's Day. That's also the alumni game, so you guys go out and support your alumni and root on the Rainbow Warriors basketball team. Rainbow Warriors baseball team kicked off their alumni game. Speaking of alumni games, Saturday at Les Murakami, and newcomer Tyler Brashears lived up to the hype by striking out 5 and just allowing 2 hits over 7 innings. Actually, Stephen Ventimiglia, Kaeo Aliviado, and Jordan Richards, all returning from last year's team, contributed majorly against the alumni, with Kaeo Aliviado hitting a 2-run blast in the 4th inning over the right field fence. Ex-Rainbow Warrior Colton Wong and current St. Louis Cardinal was there on hand to throw out the first pitch. And the baseball team opens up against a tough Oregon squad on February 13th over the weekend. Oregon's probably going to be ranked in the top 10. Very reputable team, but better, their uniforms. Now, the softball team is off to a 3-2 start with 2 victories over St. Mary's and a victory over number 25 ranked DePaul. Both Wahine losses came to Powerhouse, Oklahoma. The Lady Bulls take their show to Nevada for the weekend with 3 games in Henderson and 1 game against UCLA on Valentine's Day. The men's volleyball senior opposite hitter Brooke Sador was named Mount Pacific Sports Federation Molten Player of the Week. Sador accumulated 42 kills, hitting at a 373 clip, and UH is split against number 2 ranked the USC Trojans. The Rainbow Warriors are 7-3 overall and 4-2 in conference, which puts them in 2nd place. The Bulls hit the road this week for games at Cal Baptist on February 11th and February 13th as the Warriors continue conference play in a very tough conference. Now, to the matter at hand. Coach Sellitto is, like I said, he's the only coach to bring a national championship to the state of Hawaii with HPU. I believe that was back in '93, Coach?
That's exactly right.
All right. And Coach, we're sitting out there talking for a little while, and I see you at the games, and I just want you to know it's my pleasure to be sitting here interviewing you, and I really appreciate your time to
well,
come
thank
by
you.
and stop
I
by.
appreciate it, too. I appreciate being here. It's terrific.
Right. Coach, you came over here in the military back in '61. Tell us a little bit about your journey in the military, to a little bit of your days at Marinol, to HPU.
Well, I try not to date myself when I'm being interviewed, but yeah, I came over in the Army, and one of the reasons that they asked me to come over, I was going to go somewhere else, is to play baseball, because I was a baseball player in college, and not bad. So I came over and played for Army, and it was a great experience. I played with a lot of guys that played in AAA and AA. We were a good team, and Hickam had a team, and the Marines had a team, and the Navy had a team, and Hawaii had a team. So there was a lot of competition, and I got to know really a lot of people while I was playing for them, because I was here for 2.5 years, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I was very lucky to be able to get the Marinol job after that. I was AD and I coached the JV, so I was just in the right place at the right time to be able to do all the things that I've done. And of course, it's been very exciting.
Well, of course, that was to Marinol's benefit. We all know that. Now, Coach, people, when they see you, they automatically think basketball. Now, tell us a little bit about, your baseball days. Did you love playing baseball growing up, or did you play baseball and basketball?
Well, that's a funny story. I played as many sports as I possibly could. I don't know. I'm from New Jersey. I really like to play sports, and I started at a very early age. And I like baseball, but my true love was softball. And when I came over here, I was very lucky to be able to play with the Midas Muffler team, coached by Les Murakami, who was the baseball coach.
Yes, sir.
And we won the state championship a number of years playing on other islands. And it was great. I love softball. I started playing when I was 15 in New Jersey, and I played the King in his court twice. I played the King in his court over there in New Jersey once in front of, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. And then I played him again here many years later when he was still pitching. We played at Roosevelt. Once again, there was a nice crowd. And so I was lucky to participate in softball because fast pitch, I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was without a doubt my favorite sport. The other sports I played were to just fill up time. I played baseball and
stay out of trouble.
Baseball was 2.5 hours. I'd fall asleep half the time. It takes so long. At least basketball was a little more exciting. So, I was it. The one thing people always mention is the '93 team that won the national championship, and I think there's a couple things that I always remember about that. Number one, at HPU we had Chat Wright as the president. And he made sure that we stayed within the rules of the NAIA, which we were in at that time. But he also enabled us to be able to take care of our players as best that you could legally, and it was a great godsend. Some guys don't do that as president, but he was as much of a factor as our players or our assistant coaches. I had the same assistant coaches I had at Marinol for 23 years I had at HPU, which I think today is a very important thing. I don't usually say much about my thoughts about basketball, but it's very important. I had Russell Dung and Darryl Matsui for years and years and years and years, and they coached at Marinol with me, and we were very close, and we knew a lot of things about each other, and we had Russell's older brother Rick taking pictures of all our games when we played, and we played at Blaisdell Center when we were a high school team in the ILH. They used to play there all the time. So it was very exciting. We won 3 Division II state championships, and we won the Division I state championship in '84, and we had great kids. We had I had terrific coaches. So, I always thought that's the formula for being a successful basketball coach. I don't know how many people understand that. First of all, you have to have good players.
Right.
I think in my last media guide, it says if you want to be a good coach, get good players.
Right.
You just have to have them. I know many, many, many excellent, excellent coaches who don't have good players,
right.
And as a result, they don't do very well.
Right. As a matter of fact, I was just looking through your bio the other day, and there was a saying in there that you said that if you don't have good players, you're just polishing dirt. Is that one of your quotes?
That's one of my quotes, and that's what happens. I was at, perfect example, I was at Marinol. My first couple of years, we won like 1 game my first year, 1 game my second year, 1 game my third year, and then Kenny Fletcher transferred in, who was a 6'7" military kid who came in, and he was very, very good. Now, we always had good complementary players, but we never had like a big star.
Right.
And he was 6'7", easily the biggest guy in the league, and we blew through the league. Literally blew through it. And then that was our first year. We won Division II. And then the second year, we went to Division I, and we played at Blaisdell, and we won the ILH championship, and then we played in the state. We didn't win the state. We were runner-up, but we played in the championship game. And then I understood, seriously about sports. You're only as good as your players, and you got to really have good players. And people, they say, well, you know, there are people here on the island who are extremely knowledgeable about athletics. You name a sport, there are people here in the islands who are as good as anywhere else in the United States.
Absolutely.
However, there's not very many of them that are good recruiters. And if you're not a good recruiter, I don't know how people win. And if you don't have a good assistant coach and a good coaches on your staff, I don't know how people win. Because Russell Dung and Daryl Matsui, Russell doesn't coach anymore, but Daryl coaches Chaminade, were terrific people handling our kids. They made the kids very comfortable. We were very successful. I was telling you before, we had 23 guys turn pro.
Right.
Played 3 or 4 of them tried out for the NBA. They were
Right.
just John Strickland, great players. I mean, just absolutely great players. So it's much easier to coach when you have that kind of talent at your disposal. You know, it's very hard to coach when you don't.
Right.
I coached at Marino. I was the same coach. I did pretty much the same thing. I am not, you know, I am not like some coaches who draw a lot of X's and O's and do all those things. I'm not into that.
Yeah.
I'm much more into relationships and trying to get the players to play hard and to understand what you're doing. Don't fool around too much, but do what you do extremely well. And you have to decide, I think, as a coach, do you want them to beat you or do you want your kids to beat them?
Right.
It depends.
Mhm.
You know, people who want you to beat them, then they got to watch a lot of film all the time and pick out all those mistakes. Well, my approach was always a little bit different. Listen, I want my kids to do everything exactly right. I don't want to see one single mistake. So if you do that, you can't throw a lot of things at them.
Right.
I don't care who you are, you're not going to do it well.
Right.
And the only thing I can say, it was successful for me, and that's what I really like to do.
Now, with that being said, 23 players playing overseas, mostly in Europe, from an NAIA Division II team. That's almost unheard of. Now, I know your 2 assistant coaches, like you said, were more than helpful. How are you able to get so many good athletes over here? I mean, if you wanna let us in on some of your little secrets there.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I've talked to some people, especially my guys, you know, Russell and Darryl, those guys. We had, at one time, we had 10 Division I transfers on one team. Guys from Vanderbilt, Texas, all over. I mean, all over the place. And I thought that was the way to go. You know, you are not going to get an 18-year-old boy to come out here and play in Hawaii, and his family is back home in Chicago, and he says, I want to go home for Christmas. And we go, really? I don't think so. That's a 9-hour flight, son, and, you know, that's a lot of money, and, you know, I don't think that's... But a kid that's 22 that went to junior college, you know, he's been around, you know,
Right.
this is his last stop. He wants to be a good player. He wants to see what his future's about. He wants to graduate from school, which, by the way, the 93 team that won the national championship, all 12 players graduated from college.
Awesome.
A number of them are extremely financially well off, and the rest of them are all working and doing a terrific job, and it's just a tribute to them and to people who don't quite understand the value of an education. I certainly do. I was very fortunate to get my graduate degree. I certainly think that that's the best way to go. And we always talked about athletics, and we were very lucky to have kids who really appreciated that. But we had a lot of D1 transfers. We had a lot of, and I'm glad that I'm on so I can say this, because a lot of coaches don't believe it. Many coaches don't believe in this. Coach, he only has 1 year of eligibility left. And I said, I'll take him.
Right.
And they said, why? And I said, why? Because I don't even know if I'm going to be alive in a year. Why wouldn't I take him? I mean, of course I'm going to take him. I may not even be here next year. So, of course I'm going to take him. But he's very, very good, but he only has 1 year of eligibility. I said,
Yeah.
I'll take him.
Volunteer.
I'll
right
volunteer.
here.
And the other thing is, you know, after I got the job at HPU, I worked there 17 years.
Uh-huh.
You know, in the beginning, my president, Chad Wright, great guy to work for, a great man. Coach, sure, you can fly and meet these kids and see how they. You know, after my first 2 years, I never left my office.
Wow.
I called on the telephone, and my only advice the only thing I can say about advice is, I very rarely talk to the boy or talk to his father. I talk to his mother.
There you go.
Mothers are, without a doubt, the most important people in that young man's life. There is no question about it.
Absolutely.
So you have to really put in a lot of effort with their mother. You have to make sure that her young boy is happy and going to be taken care of, because if they don't think they're going to be taken care of, you aren't going to get them. I mean, they treat them like they're still 5 years old and they're 6'10". I mean, and you're saying, come on. Of course he's going to eat. Don't worry. We're going to make sure he eats. So, yeah, I have a little bit different philosophy than a lot of guys.
Okay, we're here with Coach Tony Sellitto, and we're going to go on a commercial break. When we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to talk to Coach about the championship team a little bit more and what that meant to him in the state of Hawaii. On the other side, Hawaii Sports Update.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Welcome back to Hawaii Sports Update, and for those of you who just joined us, we're here with the legendary Coach Tony Sellitto. The only Coach Sellitto Hawaii team to a national championship at the college level in basketball. And Coach, we were just talking about the championship team. When you look back, I mean, you know, now that it's done and it's accomplished, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to the state of Hawaii? What did it mean to HPU or HPC back then?
Well, you know, there are a few things, how we used to make the makeup of our team in regards to players. You know, I thought, you know, I'm going to try and get 8 really, really, really top-notch basketball players and get 3 or 4 local kids, because I was allowed 10 full scholarships, and give the local guys full scholarships so that we could get them to come. And so we had every single year a number of local players on our team. That year we had James Williams from University High, who was just he's a great player. He came here 5 years. Shane Takashita. I mean, we had great local kids. They both made All-State here. I liked them both. I played against both of them in high school because they were in the ILH. And, you know, we figured we'd get guys from the mainland to make up the team. And it just so happened in that year we had 2 guys, Miko and Misho, from Yugoslavia, and they were on the team. And the rest of the guys were really top-notch basketball players. We had Mike McDaniel, who went to IAEA, and he was on the team. He was a big contributor to that game because Roger Huggins, one of our players from England, got hurt, so he couldn't play in the championship game, and he filled in and did a great job. It was great because I think a lot of people, like happened to me when I was coming over here, they said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Hawaii." And they said, "Where's that?" And I said, "Geez, I don't know. I can't tell you. I'm from New Jersey." And I was laughing because the guys were all laughing. They're going, "We're going to Hawaii." I go, "Really?" And I was up in the airplane. I was telling you this before, and I looked down. The island was about the size of a dime. And I said, "We're not going to land this plane on that island. That's too small." So, I was from New Jersey. I had no idea where Hawaii was. I didn't know anything about it. But I imagine the kids coming from Yugoslavia, I mean, my goodness, that's about a day trip to come here. And those kids were great. They're very, very successful. What it means to the state of Hawaii, I told you before, P, that, listen, they all graduated. I mean, it's the biggest thrill in the world to win a national championship, of course. And I could have never done it without my assistant coaches and without those players. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, a lot of people always give talk to that kind of stuff, and it really annoys me because, well, you know, I had great. No, these guys, we won the game because we were a better team and they were very good basketball players. We didn't win the game because we were so polished and so tricky and so smart that we outsmart. Nah, we just had better players. They were good. James Williams was dynamite. I mean, you know, some of the kids. David Smith was just a terrific basketball player. Our point guard, Lamar Young, was MVP. Michael Johnson was going to go to Seton Hall, and he came here from New York. So they were great players. They were just great players. And the good thing about that is that, you know, sometimes just because you're good, that don't mean you win.
Right.
The good thing was that they were good and that we did win. And when we brought the trophy home here, of course, you know, I was picking out later on in my life some of the great towns to be athletic in, like Pittsburgh, like some of the cities in Florida, like some of the cities in California. Great athletes, great place to play,
Right.
people. And so we put Hawaii on the map because I honest to God, I can honestly tell you that probably many of them said, Hawaii, do they play basketball in Hawaii? and so we would always emphasize that, well, we're from Hawaii, and for those of you that didn't think we played basketball, we just won the national championship. And what people don't understand, which sometimes is a little disappointing, is that the entrance requirements to get into an NAIA school and the entrance requirements to get into an NCAA school is different.
Right.
But the biggest difference of all, I don't care what anybody says, is that if you go to an in the past, if you go to an NAIA school, you can go to that school over the summer, take the English that you were deficient in, get a good grade, and become eligible.
Right.
In the NC2A forever, you cannot do that. If you come from any other school, you have to be eligible as soon as you walk into that school.
Oh, okay.
And the difference is, when we got J.J. Lucas from Vanderbilt, Mike Johnson from junior, if they weren't eligible, I'd walk them to class every single day and say, you're going to class, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely.
You're going because I need you to be eligible. So we woke them up, we took them to class, they did well, they got eligible, and they were able to play. And I think that it meant a lot to them, it meant a lot to me, of course, and it certainly meant a lot to the state of Hawaii because we're the only team that's ever won, and maybe some people, you know, go, well, you know, that's all right, but, yeah, well, don't say but, because nobody else has ever done it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was 20 years ago, or a
And
number of years, 22 years ago.
And it still hasn't been done.
Still hasn't been done, so it's not that easy.
Coach, let me tell you, from my perspective, I know you're just being super humble because that's who you are. You are a great coach, and I mean, even though you had great players, you know, I played for great coaches, and the thing with playing for great coaches is the coach getting the team to buy into whatever philosophy he believes. If it's just fundamentals, like you say, you didn't throw too many X's and O's at them, but they had to buy in to what you were teaching them. That's why they perform so well. I mean, from an athlete's point of view, I know a special coach when I see one.
Well, I really thank you for that, but you know, I just always thought it was really great to. As I was telling you, I talked to some parents just before I got here at Macy's, and they said, you know, if you have children, I have 2 boys, you can yell at them, you can do it, you can hit them, you can do whatever you want, but if they think you love them, there's no problem.
Right.
I mean, they have to get that feeling, and so does a basketball, as far as I'm concerned. So does an athlete in any sport. I played for Les Murakami, greatest guy in the world. Softball player. I never played for a coach that terrific. Great guy.
Absolutely, and that's the same way that I feel about my junior college baseball coach. You know, my father had passed away, and I walked on to this junior college, and you know, he was tough on me. You know, when we used to have to take long road trips, I used to have to ride in the car with him. And, you know, the rest of the team would be on the buses, and I would be like, well, you know, why is this guy making me ride with him? Because he knew something that I didn't know. And, you know, he's still very close in my life to this day. And, you know, as a matter of fact, I had him on my first radio show a few months ago. And, you know, I'm just saying this to let you know, a good college coach like yourself, your relationship with all your players is something that'll last a lifetime. And it's more than basketball. You know, you're so concerned about their education, about them doing the right things, and that's what a good coach does. And you know, like I said, I'm humbled today sitting here talking to you. Now, your years at Marinol, okay? Me on the radio side, the TV side, of course, John Nolan is a Marinol grad. But tell me a little bit about the late Francis Fletcher and what kind of person he was.
Well, I was close with Francis. We were close, and the reason is because his brother Kenny, who played for me, made All-State first team. He's a great player. We were in 2 final championship games, and we lost them both, but he was great. So he said to me, Coach, my brother is really good. And I said to him, please, is this another brother is good? Or like your mother says, my son is really good. Really? He's your son. He better be good because you love him. I don't love him. I only like him if he's a good player. And so we got Francis, and Francis was just ferocious kid. He played for, I know you know, what's the name of that guy that limped out for the New York Knicks?
Willis Reed.
Willis Reed.
There you
go. He played for Willis Reed at Creighton. And he came right from Marinol, went to Creighton, and this is what I learned from Merv Lopes, that was the coach at Chaminade at the time. He said to Francis, he put it on, he said, Francis, if you don't like Creighton, I still got a scholarship for you here at Chaminade. And Francis came back and went to Chaminade. Chaminade then promptly beat, Louisville. They beat SMU with CONCAC. They beat Louisville with their big time. And I always remember that as a coach. I used to say, because we used to bring the New York City Gauchos here. If you don't like it where you're going, you can always come back here because I'll take you. And, I think when you recruit, you have to use that line because all the kids you think are really, really good players, they're going somewhere else. They're going to come here. They're not going to go to an NAIA school. They're going to go to a big-time school, and justifiably so. So I think that was one of the things that really helped me out. But like you were saying, I really do. I think you have to establish a relationship. One of my ex-players, Steve Ritchie, who is going somewhere to get an apartment, and he's going to come back and pick me up. He was an All-American player. His first time. He then redshirted a year, came back and got his master's, and now he has his own hedge fund, and he is extremely successful. And he's just a great kid, and I really enjoyed being with him. Well, Francis was the same way. Francis would come over to the house, pick me up, make sure that I got where I was going, aim me in the right direction, and he'd say, no, don't walk up the steps, coach, be careful, and he'd hold me, and he's a big guy, of course, so. Yeah. But before I forget, I just want to say one thing. I'll tell you a story about John Nolan. John Nolan played for me, and we came in second. We were runner-up in the state, and he was on the team. And during the week, I used to wash the kids' jerseys in a wash machine and then dry them in the dryer. And then when they came to practice, they put it on. Sure. Yeah.
We'll be right back with Coach Sellitto and have him finish up this story about John Nolan, somebody who's familiar with both of us, on the other side of Hawaii Sports Update in just one moment.
Okay, I'm Jay Fidel, that's Ray Starling. We co-host a show called Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. It's really interesting. Ray has a way of unzipping these guys. He asks them these questions, and all this stuff tumbles out, and we find out stuff we would never know about without Ray's questions. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome, Jay. I'm very pleased to be your Ed McMahon every Wednesday at 4 o'clock here on the internet. So you can join us and see what's happening in the energy world, and there is a lot going on. So join us every Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, come around, be energized right here on ThinkTech. Aloha.
Aloha, Yappers. This is your host, Kingsley, for the Yap Show. Every Friday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch us here live, ThinkTech Hawaii, and then later on we upload to our YouTube channel. We talk about youth issues, policies, youth programs, and how to transition yourself into adulthood.
But this was like a sign, I guess. Hey, life's like, hey, right. Now's your chance to go back to school, which I'm doing.
Catch us here again live, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. Aloha.
We're back on Hawaii Sports Update, of course, with the legendary coach Tony Sellitto from HPU, and he was just telling us a story about someone who we both know, John Nolan, who of course got me started in this business. And go ahead, Coach, finish your story.
Well, I told John to take the clothes out of the wash machine and put them in the dryer, and which John did. He got the clothes and the practice jerseys. That's what we used to do, wash them for the kids and then use them in the afternoon. He put them in the dryer, and 3 o'clock comes, and I go over to get them, and they're still wet in the dryer. And I said, John, I thought I told you to put the clothes in the dryer. And he said, I did. You didn't tell me to turn it on. and that was a big thing for me to learn as far as coaching is concerned, because you have to tell them everything.
Absolutely.
You can't leave the little bit out. You go, well, he'll know how to do that. Don't do that, because as a coach, that's your fault.
Yeah.
That's absolutely your fault. They're supposed to be told every single thing all the way till the basket is made, run back on defense, so that you know you've done everything right. And you know, it was a great lesson for me as a coach. I said, you know, I laughed forever. I said, you got to be kidding me, you know. But after a while, I said, you know, that's a good lesson for me to learn. You know, you have to make sure that you explain everything. Otherwise, you can't blame them for making a mistake.
Stick to the details.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Coach. Now, you call the games with Artie and, of course, Kainoa. Now, your transformation from on-the-court coaching to commentating, what kind of adjustments did you have to make? Because you're a little fiery coach out there. We all know that.
Well, of course, I had to be much quieter. And I was very lucky to be able to sit between Kainoa and Artie, because both of them are very knowledgeable about basketball, and both of them are extremely verbal, as I am, of course. But I have learned not to be as verbal, and I think that's a great lesson for me. You know, I make a comment on some of the things I think are extremely important.
Right.
But I don't jump in and try to dominate the entire broadcast, because I'm working with a professional on one side who works for ESPN now, Kainoa,
Right.
and Artie on the other side who's been been announcing for 15 years already and played basketball for the University of Hawaii.
Right.
Knows basketball really well. He coaches in the summer league. So I've been very fortunate because I have 2 great guys to work with, and you know, it's a lot of fun, and of course it's the best seat in the house, and that's why I like to go there, so I don't have to fight for my seat.
There you go. I'm only 2 seats down from you, so I guess
so
I got
you know
the second
it's a good seat. You know it's a good seat.
Now, let's talk about the current team. Let's just go through them. Let's start with your favorite player, Aaron Valdez. Tell me what he brings to the team. Tell me what his strengths and weaknesses are, and how much he's developed from his freshman to sophomore year.
Well, you know, I'm like a bird dog scout for the Clippers, the Lakers, and Golden State Warriors. If I like somebody, I call them up and say, you know. But honestly, if I were to do anything for Aaron Valdez, I keep saying this on TV, and I'm sure he's not too happy about it. I would definitely call up San Diego Chargers and tell him, you better sign that kid as a tight end. He's terrific talent. He can jump, he can run, he's a great athlete. You know, he is absolutely terrific. And so I said to a friend of mine, do you know that there's 19 players who played in the NFL who played basketball in college and never played football?
Yeah.
There are 7 or 8 of them right now who are starting on their teams.
Yeah. The tight end for New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, great player. Played basketball.
Oh, yeah.
But the kid that's up for murder played basketball at New England Patriots.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I just think he has an extreme talent. The kid can jump through it. I don't even know what his vertical is, but it's ridiculous the way he gets up there.
Yes,
he
sir.
excites the crowd. If you were to tell me after me calling every game last year that he was going to be that improved and be the leading scorer, I'd say, son, go straight to the hospital because you're sick. That young man has made a great leap.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if he practiced all summer. I don't know that, but that must be the reason why he's made such a great progress to from last year to this year. He is easily. I've watched every team in this league. There's nobody that can even come close to him. When he scores, you can't stop him. You know, some of them are good shooters. Some of them are good rebounders. Some of them are good dribblers. He's the whole package. He's a tough kid, and God bless him. I mean, he is just. I think he's a terrific, terrific basketball player. He has moments when he doesn't really do that well because I don't think he's a very polished basketball player.
Right,
but I'll
right.
bet you when he comes back next year, he will be.
Absolutely.
He's gonna be good.
Absolutely. Well, I know Benji was here, and he said if Aaron Valdez makes half the improvement from his junior and senior year that he did his sophomore year, he's going to be off the charts.
Off the charts.
Now let's go. Let's talk about Negus Webster-Chan. To me, he's the X factor. I mean, you can see his talent. I mean, but it seems like him and Valdez haven't got hot at the same time all year long. Talk about Negus Webster-Chan for a little while.
Well, I watched every game in the summer league in the summer because I like basketball. And Negus played, of course, last year. And I saw him play games where he dropped 40 points, 35 points. And my opinion is that, of course, he's extremely talented, which he is. He's very talented. He could jump through the ceiling. He got a great three-point shot. He has great range. He'll probably learn to go to the basket a lot more next year than this year. But he doesn't seem to be playing at 100% all the time he plays. He always seems to be playing good.
Right.
And I want you to play great.
Right.
I don't want you to play great if you can't. That's very, people shouldn't do that. You can't expect people to do things they can't do.
Right.
The guy's running a 100-yard dash and he does it in 10 seconds. And you're saying, I know you can get better. I know you can run a 9.5. No, you can't. A guy that can run 9.5 runs 9.5.
Right.
A guy that can score 40 scores 40.
Right.
You can't say, I know you can score 40 and you're averaging 2 points a game. That's ridiculous. He can score 40. He's that good.
Yes.
And I think he has to wake up one morning and go, I am that good, and then go out and do it.
All right. Now let's move on to Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas is one of my favorite players. Plays hard, plays smart. He's a great offensive rebounder because he reads the rebound really well. He runs all the time. He works real hard all the time. They're playing him out of position, and people say, why does he foul? So that's because he's playing out of position. Mike
Right.
Thomas is a 3.
Right.
He can shoot the 3. He's quick. He can go to basket. He's big for a 3, but you're playing him at the 4 and 5. Very hard adjustment for him. But he's done a good job. He scored 18 last week, and he did a great job, and they won. And I'm sure once he gets used to the position, he'll do fine.
Oh yeah, and I also think Mike Thomas's basketball IQ is also very high. He's a lefty, which is
Always good.
yeah, which is always good. But I've watched pretty much every game this year too, and Mike Thomas is like the quiet little assassin. I think we're going to see a lot more from him as the season goes on.
Him and Aaron Valdez, you won't be able to stop them next year. You just won't be able to. They're terrific players.
Absolutely. Now, the only senior on the team, Garrett Neville, and now he was out for a little while, and UH struggled defensively when he was out, and now that he's back, what do you have to say about Garrett?
Well, watching Garrett the last 2 years, he played for the California State champions, I wish I could, Allen Hancock, I think. I don't want to say that, but I thought it was Allen Hancock Junior College. And he was one of their better players.
Oh no, he went to Mount Sac.
No, okay, Mount Sac.
He went to Mount Sac.
Good. I'm glad you corrected me.
Yeah.
I think he's very smart. I think he's very tough. Anybody could play with that injury that quick. It's unbelievable. He goes out on that court. He's people say he's a leader. I don't know if he's a leader, but he seems to really take charge when he's out there. He's got a lot of confidence in himself. He shoots the 3 really well. I am always confident when him or Bobbitt is on the free throw line because they're both excellent free throw shooters. I think he adds a lot to the team. He has good speed. And, he has what I always call an athlete's mind. He thinks he's tough. He thinks he's good. And he goes out there and shows you.
Right.
And he isn't afraid of man or beast. And to me, that's the kind of player I really like.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Roderick Bobbitt, go ahead and speak on him.
Well, I think Rod does the best thing that any point guard could do. At the end of the game, when you have to control the game, the point guard has got to have the ball. And he's the guy you got to foul. And Roger Bobic is much, much better than even a good free throw shooter. You know, he's an 80+% free throw shooter. When he's on the line, I feel very, very comfortable. Not only that, he's not the quickest guy in the world. He doesn't shoot the three as good as everybody in the world. But I'll tell you what, he's one of the smartest guys in the world. And he certainly plays defense like a demon. He is all over you. You better not make any mistakes with the ball, with Bobic, because I don't care what team you play. You could play for Kentucky, he'll take the ball away from you.
Absolutely.
I don't care. You could play for Louisville, he's going to take the ball away from you.
Absolutely.
Because he's not afraid to take a chance. He's got great anticipation. And I don't know if people, I'm sure you do, because you're down on the floor. He's a big kid. He's not a little twerp that's going to just... He's a tough guy. I mean, he's a big, strong kid. And I really admire him because he's come in and led the league in steals, and he's leading third or fourth in the nation. That's unbelievable. That's very admirable. Very, very admirable.
And he's averaging over 5 assists a game also.
Great. He leads the league. He's terrific. He's absolutely terrific.
Absolutely. Roderick Bobic is definitely a ball hawk.
Yep.
All right, now let's move on to freshman Isaac Fleming. What does he bring to the team? Now this kid, to me, has almost as high as upside as Negus or Aaron if he applies himself. What do you think about Isaac Fleming?
Well, I think he's dangerous. I think he's very dangerous. He's the best player since I've been here watching University of Hawaii basketball finish a layup. I don't understand how he does that. I have no idea of how he's so creative. He just, I don't care how big the defense is. He goes around him or does something. He made that shot at the end of the game. There were 3 guys on him. I don't understand how he did it, you know. One of the things is he has to learn to control his effervescence.
Yes.
Because he's very effervescent. I mean, my goodness, he's really active out there, and he has to learn to settle down a little bit, and which he will. You know, remember now he's only a freshman,
right?
So I mean, you know, he thinks like a freshman. Freshmen think, you know, you want me to do it? I'll do it. I've always been good. I've always been successful. I'm gonna do it. And he, you know, he's playing against D1 players. You can't do it all the time. You know, sometimes you're gonna turn over the ball. So once he calms down, boy, he's gonna be. He is just. He got to be on the all-freshman team in the Big West. He's
absolutely.
terrific. Yeah,
okay, let me ask you this real quick. When you have somebody like that who's super aggressive, now, do you think that's good because you can tone them down better than having somebody who's not so aggressive and you can't pump them up to get to that aggressive point?
Well, I think it's great because I would never try and turn him down. What I would try to do is educate him so that he would do it in a positive way rather than sometimes in a negative way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's got so many skills. I mean, my goodness, if he was 6'6", he'd be in the pros.
Yes,
He's absolutely terrific two-guard. He's absolutely terrific. Quick, smart, shoot the three, takes a chance like Bobic on defense. He's all over you all the time. He's very pesky. So I would just kind of like say, hey, don't lose any of that. Just channel it in a different direction.
Okay. And finally, talk about both Steffens for a minute.
Big. Big.
Yeah,
Very
6'11".
complimentary because one is very smooth. And once again, I really believe he's a 3. He's got a great three-point shot.
Yes, sir.
Jankovic.
Yes.
What a three-point shot he's got. He's very smart. He's clever. I think he's a terrific asset. And the other one, of course, is very big, strong, and has really improved around the basket.
Yes.
And I'll say one thing for sure. If he isn't the best free throw shooter of all the big men in this conference, he's pretty close to being 2 or 3. Because nobody can shoot free throws better than that boy. He can flat out shoot, and it's just a terrific asset to have if you're that big. Most big men don't shoot that well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Coach, like I said, thank you for joining us here on Hawaii Sports Update. It is my privilege and my pleasure to be sitting here next to you. You heard it, Basketball 101 from legendary Coach Tony Sellitto here with PJ on Hawaii Sports Update. Thank you for joining the program. And we'll be back not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after next. Mahalo.
All right, thanks.